Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about the 1967 kaiju film Monster from a Prehistoric Planet, also available in the Anglosphere as Gappa, the Triphibian Monster, or Triphibian Monsters in the plural. The film begins with a Japanese magazine magnate financing an expedition to the South Pacific. You see, this magnate intends to build a South Seas-styled theme park, and he wants exotic animals and primitive peoples to stock it, which is, some pretty odious cultural imperialism movie, but it was 1967 after all. In any case, this is the justification for the expedition to the South Seas, and said expedition succeeds beyond the magnate's wildest dreams when they discover an isolated island with not just a tribe of undiscovered Stone Age people, but also a newly hatched and apparently unique bird lizard that the natives call Gappa. Now, side note, you may notice that this setup makes the prehistoric planet part of the film's name completely nonsensical, because this is entirely an earthbound narrative. Not something we can actually blame on the original filmmakers, but trust me, we're not going to be short of things for which they do deserve the blame. In any case, the expedition members immediately load the newborn creature onto their ship and head back to Japan, all while conducting a long and tedious series of arguments about whether to publicly announce the creature and whether it should be an exhibit in the park or be held for scientific study. So obviously, there are only two things that can happen from here. Either the newborn Gappa grows to an immense size and goes on a rampage, or its heretofore missing parents turn up and rampage it to get it back. As it turns out, it's the latter. The adult Gappa are truly triphibian, comfortable on land, in the water, and in the air, and they fly at supersonic speed to Japan, where they promptly begin smashing model cities and fighting model tanks and jets. In traditional kaiju style, they are of course impervious to human weaponry, so it seems like there is no way to stop their rampage. Well, no way unless you think for 5 seconds about why they're rampaging, in which case the solution is probably a bit more obvious to you than it seems to be for anybody in the movie. So the mid-60s was something of a boom period for kaiju, and many Japanese movie studios were jumping on the giant monster bandwagon. This included Nikatsu Corporation, the oldest film studio in the country, but they were to make only one entry in the genre, this film. Probably because it cost about 10 times the average budget for one of their productions, which made it prohibitively expensive to do. Originally released in Japan as Daikaiju Gappa, the film came to US audiences under the inaccurate title Monster from a Prehistoric Planet, where it enjoyed pretty positive reviews with praise for the special effects and family-friendly action. I do not share the positive opinion of those reviewers. Let's talk about why. And the first reason is we have seen all of this before several times. At the time of its release, this movie was swiftly identified as being more or less a Japanese remake of the British monster film Gorgo, and if you read the plot summary side by side, it is easy to see the parallels. Baby monster gets taken from its home to, quote, civilization, unquote. Mommy monster goes on an unstoppable rampage to get the baby back. The thing is that, despite its like nothing you've ever seen before marketing tagline, Gorgo was itself pretty much just King Kong with the ape replaced with a Godzilla XP. The only genuine novelty is that the original monster is an infant, with the bigger, badder adult version showing up for the climactic rampage. Now, I've not seen Gorgo, so I can't say how it compares to its inspirations, but I have seen Gojira and King Kong, and I've no qualms at all in telling you that they are far better movies than this one. I can't even really compliment the effects, which apparently so impressed Variety magazine back in 1967. The film's visuals doubtless weren't helped by the fact that I saw a blurry pan and scan copy of the movie, but even so, they didn't look like anything particularly notable. I mean, you can see what Gappa looks like on your screen, right? Perhaps this is due to the fact that I was comparing them to the masterful earlier movies rather than to the often chintzy mid-60s kaiju movies with which it was more directly competing. Maybe if you see this movie directly after watching one of the lesser 1960s Godzillas, it looks better. Who knows? When I watched Monster from a Prehistoric Planet, I found it such an obvious and obviously lesser copy of earlier films that I took it to be a parody of those movies rather than a serious entry in the genre. The film's blatant plot theft and hokey dialogue, the last of these possibly the fault of American independent television, who did the English dub, was such that I never considered it might have been intended to be taken seriously. And that impression was reinforced by the basic design of the Gappa themselves. If your kaiju movie is meant to be taken seriously, then why would your monster look like a freshly plucked, ill-tempered parrot? But Apparently, the people at Nakatsu did genuinely intend this to be taken seriously. The thing is, even watching it as a parody, Monster from a Prehistoric Planet doesn't really work. There's an old adage that the best parodies are those which are themselves good examples of the things they're parodying, and I think it's a solid adage. Scream works, for instance, because if you stripped out the comedic, genre-savvy self-awareness, there's still an effective and entertaining slasher movie in there. This movie isn't a particularly good kaiju film, though to be fair, you'd be hard-pressed to find one from this era that was, despite the popularity of the form. 1967 was, after all, the year that Toho inflicted the execrable Son of Godzilla on their flagship franchise, while Gamera was deep in his tiresome friend to all children epoch. Now, to be fair, there are some modern reviewers who enjoyed this movie more than I did. I mean, I haven't seen anyone claim that it's good, but they appreciated the kaiju rampage destruction effects, and let's be honest, if you're a kaiju fan, those are probably a big selling point. Now, if you do seek out the film, pay attention to the title. Try to find it under its Gappa, the Triphibian Monsters incarnation. This version retains the full widescreen cinematic aspect, and a lot of the destruction was lost in the old 4:3 TV aspect pan and scan Monster from a Prehistoric Planet adaptation that I saw. Still, at the end of the day, this movie is definitely only one for kaiju completists. If you're not already a fan of giant monster action, there are many other better places to start than here. Next time, when her senior officials start mysteriously bursting into flame, Empress Wu needs the most brilliant detective in China to solve the crime. It's rather awkward that the man is a convicted rebel. Such is the setup of 2010 Wuxia action movie Detective D and the Mystery of the Phantom Flame. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've seen Gappa in any of his incarnations, let me know what you thought of it.